Hello, my name is Regan and I am an American living in France. If you watched my last video, you may have heard about my problems with the prefecture. Well, I went back last week again and everything is looking better. I will go back this week to get my récépissé and I'm one step closer to getting my residence card. So good news, but even better news is that my family is coming to town this week. They will be here from about the middle of December, December 14th, all the way until New Year's Eve, and I am so excited. But since they're coming, it's had me, I've started thinking about the different things between the United States and France that you need to keep an eye out for or you need to be prepared for. There are many things that are similar, but it's always the small things that will throw you off or that could potentially ruin your experience if you're not aware of them. Okay, so the first and probably the most annoying thing is dog poop. Yeah, you would never think of it, but dog poop. For some reason, there is no public shaming or public guilt in letting your dog poop on the ground and then just walking away. Like, cleaning up after your dog is not a common responsibility here. Of course, there are people who do it, but if you visit France, you need to keep an eye on the ground and watch where you are going because if not, you might slip and slide and not in a fun way. The second thing to be aware of is that places are either closed or have very limited hours on Sunday. So I know that in the US, I use Sunday as a day to run errands, and if you're traveling to France, you may use this as another day to explore and adventure. But you have to be aware that everything will not be open and plan accordingly. Another thing that threw me off when coming to France, especially being part of the younger generation in the United States, I like to pay for everything with card. I never use physical cash, but that is definitely not as common here. In France, they prefer to pay in cash, and sometimes if you have a card without a chip, or sometimes even if you do, you may not be able to use it here. So it's good to either bring along some cash with you, or I say bring an ATM card that doesn't have any withdrawal fees in foreign places and just take out the amount of cash you need at the beginning of each day. It is better to be safe than sorry. You do not want to eat dinner completely finished, try to pay with your card, and then it is declined because either they don't accept card or your card cannot be read for some reason. The cards that I use are the Capital One Journey credit card, which has a nice little a nice little chip in it, and zero foreign transaction fees. And for my debit card, I use the Ally checking something or other. Another great no-fee debit card is from Charles Schwab, and I think my boyfriend has another Capital One Venture credit card that is also zero transaction fees. These are great if you are coming for a short amount of time. If you'll be here more than 3 months or more than 6 months, it's easier to set up a French bank account. Oh, well. Another thing to be aware of is unlike some other European countries you may visit, English is not always readily spoken by everyone. If you're visiting more touristy places, of course, many people will speak English, but as you start to venture out away from these areas, expect to have to either try to speak in French or to be patient and to speak slowly and simply if you have to use English. Do not just stammer off or roll off your words. Be patient. English is not a strong language here all the time. So in America, we pay a lot of respect to cars. Uh, when you're a kid, you always see these PSAs about like drunk driving, or you always are supposed to follow the crosswalk symbols. They really drill into you when you're young to pay attention and to be safe when you are crossing the street. That's not really a thing here. People will walk like directly in front of cars or directly in front of a tram and not think anything of it. It's the pedestrians, I would say, have a little more right of way here, or they're just more ballsy. But if you're visiting, I would not suggest this. I think you need to be safe and follow rules. But if you see a French person just dart in front of traffic, do not be shocked. The last thing I want to cover are some differences when you go out to eat at a restaurant in France versus the United States. Just be aware that customer service in France is not quite the same as customer service in the US. When you go out to eat at a restaurant in the US, the waiter or the waitress is typically very attentive. They're paying attention to their needs. They want to make sure that you are 100% satisfied. It is not necessarily the same in France. If you need your check, you need to ask for it. If you need more water, you need to ask for it. So you need to grab the waiter's attention. Also, another thing is service is included in the bill, so you do not have to tip. In my opinion, this may be a reason why the customer service here is a little different than in the US. In the US, a large part of their income for a waiter or a waitress comes from tips. So they must work extra hard to make sure that you leave a tip. Whereas in France, they don't receive income from tips, and it's not very common to leave a tip after a meal. If you do, I would only leave it for an exceptional meal and maybe a couple euros, not the 20% like we do in the US. And another thing to be aware of with restaurants here is the portions are typically a lot smaller, and doggy bags are not always an option. I found that when we go out to eat pizza, most people order an individual pizza for themselves, and you're able to get the leftovers put in foil. But for other restaurants, to go or doggy bags are not really a thing. Alright guys, that is it for today. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and like this video. If you have ideas for other videos or things you want to know about France, from my experience, please leave me a comment down below. And if you visited France before, I want to know some of the weird differences you have found between it and your home country. Until next time.